Hello beautiful people and welcome to the channel. My name's Reverend Debbie and I talk about all things to do with narcissistic, abusive and toxic relationships, as well as looking at healing from them. And today's video, Perpetuating Trauma. What is it? I'm going to get into the details in a moment, but first of all, a friend of mine last week put up a post, a meme, and it was all about disciplining children. Now, I do not have children. Unfortunately, I wish I did, but I wasn't able to have them. But I know for a fact that if I had children, they would not receive any physical discipline from me, because I am a survivor of childhood abuse and trauma. This is what I mean about perpetuating trauma. It is when a parent who was abused, who was slapped or smacked or physically abused in some way for being naughty, whatever you class as naughty, and they take that trauma within them and they go on to, in the future, when they get married and have children, do the same thing. That is perpetuating trauma. And only we can stop it. Only you in this place now can stop it in your life with your children. So I know this comes down to parenting, and I'm not a parent, but what I can tell you about is the trauma that happens to the child. Now, a friend of mine put a meme up on social media, and I'm not going to read out the whole meme, just a key part of it, because the rest of it relates to the UK. And I know these videos are seen around the world. I have a lot of viewers from the USA and from Canada, as well as the UK. I also have a viewer from Brazil, and I think I have some viewers from South Africa as well, because I lived there. So a lot of people who follow this channel are perhaps friends of mine. But the part of the quote was, "We aren't allowed to smack children anymore, and they have grown up to be selfish and self-centered." And I think a lot of the parents who are saying this and who agree with it are Gen Xers. I'm a Gen X. And they were physically smacked as a child. And they're saying, well, it didn't hurt me. I'm fine. I grew up okay. Well, no, actually you didn't. And I'm going to get into that in the video. But if you enjoy it, please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel and share with your friends. And also, if you want to message me, send me comments or something privately, maybe you want to have a chat with me, email me at debbiewolfmoon@yahoo.co.uk. So, perpetuating trauma. This is when the trauma perpetuates through the generations. Now, as I mentioned, from what I have seen online, is that the people who are saying this, that children are selfish and self-centered these days, and you know, I was smacked as a child and it never affected me. Well, I can tell you it did affect you, because if it didn't, you wouldn't be saying that, would you? You know, so therefore it did affect you, and it affects all of us in different ways. Some will go on to do the same to their children. Some will go on to not do that to their children, to make a point of being kind to their child, teaching their child different ways around behavior and around, I don't want to call it punishment, because it's not punishment. It shouldn't be punishment. It should be teaching. It should be helping the child to understand that laying on the floor kicking your feet is not healthy. But don't forget that children have very, very different emotions to us. They haven't learned. They are learning. They haven't learned how to control their emotions and how to react to these things. But by a parent slapping them, number one, the child's going to cry more. Number two, all it's going to teach that child is, if I'm naughty, I'm going to get slapped. So when I get older, I'm going to do the same to my children. There are better ways of punishment. There really are. I'm not going to go into that in this video. That's a completely different topic to this. This topic is more about how we view this kind of trauma. Now, being slapped is trauma. It is. Think about it for a second. You are this tiny 1-2-year-old child, and you've got this 5-foot, 6-foot tall adult smacking you. What emotional response is that going to elicit in the child? Fear. Fear of that parent or that person who is committing that form of abuse, because it is abuse. It has been deemed illegal here in the UK to smack a child. And it's illegal to smack an adult. We wouldn't smack an adult if they, played up or were having a temper tantrum, would we? No, because we don't smack adults. So why are we smacking children? Why is that level of abuse still occurring? And what I did pick up from this this conversation that I was having, debate, was that a lot of the people on there were Gen Xers, and I'm a Gen Xer, and we're saying that, well, it never hurt me as a child. But like I say, it did, because you're perpetuating that trauma that you went through as a child, you're now doing to your child. And the selfish and self-centered behavior, and I'm talking about the children that they're probably talking about in this meme are probably millennials and Gen Zs. And I don't know what the next generation is after that. Wise? I don't know. But are they selfish? Are they self-centered? Who brought them up? Who educated them? You did. Perpetuating trauma. If you are giving a child everything that they want and not putting some boundaries in place, that child is going to become selfish. It's up to you as the parent, as the adult, to teach the child. Not up to the child to learn if you're not teaching them. Being self-centered. Well, we live in a society at the moment that is very much instant gratification. And that's happened over the last 20 years, over the advent of the internet and the fact that we've got these companies, big companies that we can buy things from, and things are delivered the next day. And so we want that instant gratification. And your children do too. You get it, so why can't they? We live in a different world to one that we lived in 50 years ago. And I'm a Gen Xer, as I say, so I'm pushing towards the middle of my 50s. And I know that what I went through as a child shaped me as an adult. I know that the abuse I went through as a child was wrong. And I always said in my life that if I ever had children, I would not smack them or physically punish them. Now, there are some times when we have to do things like that. And I'm going to give you a case in point here. One of the ladies who commented on my post where I had copied this from. And my point was that no, smacking children is not right. It's wrong and you should never do it. However, this one lady said to me that she regrets having slapped her child's hand when the child was reaching for a hot ring on the stove. Now, that's not abuse. That is protection of your child, because they're going for a hot ring. They don't know, they can't see, they're lower than the stove. So they don't know what's up there. So she said that she still feels guilty to this day about doing that, but I'm pretty sure that she would prefer that than having a child perhaps suffer permanent damage from burning their hand. But what can we do to fix that problem? We can teach the child at an early age. Just as an example, obviously we have gas stoves and we have, electric stoves. So for a gas stove, it's going to be different. But for an electric stove, you can pick your child up and say, look, this is hot. This is going to hurt you. Look what it does to this water. And you put a few drops of water onto that plate onto your electric stove and it will sizzle and boil. And if we teach our children properly, they will grow up to be caring, loving, not self-centered, not selfish, but they will be able to pass that love on to their children. So there's a lot of information out there, psychological information that you can go and look at. I'll put some links into the comment section below. But the vast majority, and I'm talking about 90% of the papers and journals that I read, say that physical punishment of a child perpetuates that trauma. So there's possibly 10% of people, of professors, whoever, doctors, who think that it doesn't. I would like to look at that in more detail to see if they were male or female who wrote that, because I do believe that gender plays a very big part in this. But again, that's a topic for another day. Like I said, some children will go on to be okay and not perpetuate that trauma, but some will. And we need to teach our children well. We need to make sure that we look after them, that we nurture them, that we create them into an autonomous being who looks at life with joy and happiness and doesn't look at life in fear. Think about it. That child, that little child, is being slapped by an adult. How terrified must that child be? This is the person that the child goes to for comfort, for protection. And now the child has been punished by slapping, hitting, or worse. So they no longer trust their parent, they no longer believe them, and it creates fear in them. And I can tell you now that is true. I was terrified of my father, absolutely terrified of him, even up until he passed away. So, you wouldn't hit another adult. Why hit a child? A defenseless child. Suffer the children. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Share the video with your friends and family. Email me at debbiewolfmoon@yahoo.co.uk. I hope to see you next time. Blessed be.